Hello, and welcome to The Tab, where we catch you up on the month's best gaming news as well as some other stories you may have missed. Here's the tab for September 2019. The Switch Lite is seeing some drift issues only a few weeks after release. One of the issues facing the original Nintendo Switch is what is known as Joy-Con drift, where a player experiences the camera slowly shifting or even characters moving left or right without touching either of the Switch's control sticks. Switch fans were hoping that not only would the issue be fixed for the OG Switch, but that this issue wouldn't be present at all in the newly released Switch Lite. Well, it seems reports are coming in from players on Reddit and elsewhere that the Joy-Con drift has indeed found its way onto the console. Just a few days after the release of the handheld, multiple users tweeted and took to forums to express their disappointment after they experienced the drifting issues. So much so, in fact, that the Switch Lite has been added to an ongoing class action lawsuit against Nintendo for Joy-Con drift, claiming the frequent reports of the issue constitutes a defective product. The lawsuit, which lists 18 plaintiffs in 16 different states, was filed after a brief investigation this summer. That follows complaints about Joy-Con drift almost since the console's launch in March 2017. Nintendo hasn't done much in regards to responding to the lawsuit, but they have at least acknowledged that some Joy-Con controllers aren't responding correctly and have been offering free repairs for the controllers since the end of July. But players clearly don't want to fix their broken controllers, they want them to work outright when they purchase a system, and this lawsuit seems to be an effort to reinforce the idea of trust between a company and their customers, and that the products they sell will work as advertised and not degrade after a very short amount of time. We'll see how this develops as the lawsuit and claims of Joy-Con drift continue. Fallout 76 collectible helmets are recalled amid concerns of mold. This game is really just nothing but a cause for backlash and fan disappointment, and a good portion of that isn't even because of the game itself. First, there was the whole canvas bag debacle, followed closely by the Nuka Dark Rum plastic bottle case that angered fans who spent $80 on a seemingly cheap product. However, the helmet recall is not cause for any widespread panic, as a statement released by the manufacturer of the helmet, Chronic Collectibles, specified. The recall only involves the Fallout 1-to-1 Power Armor Nuka-Cola helmets that have a red painted finish with white colored exterior tubing around the sides. Only 32 units of the recalled helmets were actually sold and shipped to customers, and all of those consumers have been identified and notified directly about the recall. No other models, editions, or colors of Power Armor helmets are involved in this recall. So while it certainly wasn't as bad as it could have been, it was definitely not what the makers of Fallout 76 needed as far as adding yet another bad headline to the growing list it has had since release. Plus, since it only sold 32 units, I think it's safe to say that fans are becoming a little cautious when it comes to Fallout 76 products, given the history I previously mentioned. And in this case, it seems fans were right to be at least a little wary. UK Parliament's Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee recommends loot box sales to children be banned. Earlier in the month, the committee released their report suggesting that loot boxes in video games be treated the same as gambling with regards to regulations and age restrictions. While some companies such as Microsoft and Sony have already committed to visibly show loot box odds on their platforms by 2020, the Entertainment Software Association, or ESA, which represents big-name publishers like Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, EA, and others, was, let's say, less than pleased. The response was somewhat confrontational, stating while they take this issue seriously, they strongly disagree with the committee's findings. They continued, as demonstrated by the recent announcement of policies regarding the disclosure of the relative rarity or probability of obtaining virtual items in paid loot boxes, as well as the robust parental controls that empower parents to control in-game purchases, the video game industry is a leader in partnering with parents and players to create enjoyable video game experiences. In addition, numerous regulatory bodies around the world, including those in Australia, France, Ireland, Germany, and the UK, have come to a conclusion that's starkly different than that of this committee. This is merely a suggestion put forth by the committee, but could potentially sway future opinion as far as the legality of loot boxes go, which is I'm sure why the ESA is responding the way it is. There are already several countries that have made them illegal, but in some of those cases, only some instances violated gambling laws, but not all. Likewise, in some countries, they have been deemed not the same as gambling based on what their legal definition of gambling is, but have also acknowledged that this does not mean they should be unregulated. As more games continue to skirt whatever line they can find as to what constitutes gambling or not, I'm sure this problem will continue to pop up until a consensus can be made about how to treat loot boxes in the future. The recent Steam update could potentially be hurting indie devs. The Steam launcher got a nice update this month, notably making changes to the library, which now lets you create groups for your games, and was also supposed to increase the diversity of games recommended to you in the store page. Apparently, the older version was biased towards more popular games, and part of this update was supposed to fix that and present games more relevant to users in their recommended and more like this listings. However, several indie developers have noted a drop-off in wish listing, as well as claims Steam is still promoting popular games over indie games. But other developers said they haven't noticed any changes from the update, while others say they've even seen a boost in wish lists and recommendations. Of course, a new update that brings in new formats and algorithms will undoubtedly have a few issues at launch, and a Valve representative said as much, stating that they were reviewing feedback, but it was too early to say what changes can be made. Hopefully, in the near future, Steam makes enough changes to where indie devs finally feel like they're being equally represented on the store page. Is Mario Kart Tour just a greedy cash grab? Well, Mario Kart finally came to mobile and brought with it a bunch of controversy, which honestly seems to be pretty standard with most mobile games these days. Of course, the controversy is tied up in none other than in-game transactions. In this case, a $5 monthly gold pass to play the 200cc courses, as well as access to exclusive characters, karts, and more. Plenty of other outlets and fans have pointed out that this is the same price as the newly announced Apple Arcade membership, which grants access to over 100 games. Sure, none of them are as nostalgia-inducing as Mario Kart, but that makes the offer presented by Nintendo in this game seem pretty weak. On top of that, you also have the in-game currency rubies that you can buy in order to fire off a classic green pipe, which spews out random new items for you, including racers, karts, and items. Each fire costs you 5 rubies, or you can do 10 fires for 45 rubies. You can earn these rubies by grinding through the game or purchasing them with real money, from 3 rubies for $1.99 all the way up to 135 rubies for $69.99, which if you ask me is just a little insane. Other players feel the same pretty much, and pair that feeling with connection issues and full servers at launch, the game has already left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. It's also an interesting situation for Nintendo to be in, considering that they were part of that group I mentioned earlier that committed to mandate loot box odds disclosures on their platforms by the end of 2020. So we'll see what that means for Mario Kart and other Nintendo mobile games in the near future, but after a reported 10.1 million installs on day one, maybe the nostalgia will take over and continue to see more players join in. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this month's edition of The Tab. Don't forget to hit that like button as well as the bell so you get notified every time a new monthly roundup is live. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Oh, yeah, and you can play Battle Royale on Civilization 6 now, so that's a thing.